Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Life on 11 podcast. This week, Jeremy and I talk about the problem with living your own truth, as well as a discussion about the greatest 90s Christian band of all time, as voted on by you, by the way. So without further ado, let's take it to 11. What's going on, Jeremy? How are you?
I'm cooled off.
Bro, it's a barn burner.
Oh my goodness gracious, it's been hot.
It's been real hot. And then, watch this.
Just cracked open a cold Mountain Dew Voltage.
Oh, baby. It's a good way to end the day. It's been a hot day. Been doing a lot of stuff. It's been a barn burner here in old Rockingham County. You didn't melt today, did you?
No, I didn't melt. I got most of my outside work done before lunchtime.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
I got to run a little mini excavator today. That was cool.
Cool.
I don't get to do that very often.
Okay. What were you excavating?
Dirt.
Well, duh. For what?
Oh, for conduit to go in a ditch.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I like it. I like it. Had a good week?
Yes. Yep. Last week was really good. Busy. Lots of stuff happening.
Yeah. Lots of stuff.
Lots of gatherings.
And that's good.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
It is a good thing.
It can
I enjoy it.
We went to King's Dominion twice last week.
Yeah,
I did.
went to King's
Our
Dominion
family went twice. You went once.
I went once.
There was a pool party on Saturday night and a big lunch on Sunday. I was pretty well whooped by Sunday evening. I'm not a spring chicken anymore. 2 trips to King's Dominion in 1 week. That's crazy.
I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it.
Well, to be fair, one day I pretty much sat in the water park and did nothing the whole time we were there.
Just vegged.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I worked on my sermon and some stuff that while I was there.
While you were in the lazy river?
No,
dude, that would have been epic.
It would have been epic
if you would have written your sermon while you were floating the lazy river.
I don't think I have any water protected sermon writing things.
That's why it would be epic, because you are taking a risk.
Well, some would say I'm taking a risk every time I sit down and write a sermon. Just saying.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
That's fair.
So let's dive in. Friday, we had our first ever Life on 11 poll.
Oh yes,
we did a little ask the community. We might make this a thing.
What was the total tally? Total number of votes.
Total number of votes was 27. 27 total votes. Okay. So
27.
That's good for a first poll. Okay. Yeah. We want to see it. Come up some.
Yeah. We want to get like 28 next week.
Yeah. We might make this a Friday thing.
Well, considering that we have actually missed 2 weeks worth of podcasts.
That is true.
We might be losing.
To be fair, let's be transparent. We recorded one last week.
We did,
and it wasn't very good.
It was terrible.
We didn't want to let it out.
Yeah.
So anyway, so the question for this week was, who was your favorite 90s Christian band? The nominees were DC Talk, The Newsboys, Third Day, Skillet, Five Iron Frenzy, and then Other, with a comment below.
Other.
Okay. Some of the others, which, I mean, we're getting into the weeds on some of this. Okay. Because, like, for example, he went, RB Props, listener of the show, he goes Bride. Okay. Which, I don't know, for some reason, I thought they were an 80s band. I don't know. They sound like an 80s band.
80s and,
the W's.
Okay.
And Striper, which Striper's
good.
Again, I see them more as an 80s band than a 90s band. Let's see. There were two folks that agreed on Jars of Clay who almost made it in. When I made up the poll questions, I almost put Jars of Clay instead of Five Iron Frenzy, and I will explain that.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear about that.
There was also a mention of Demon Hunter, who definitely would have been probably my number one, but I don't know. They didn't get really known to the 2000s. So the final totals, with 40% of the vote coming in at number one, was DC Talk. Which would have been, to me, the favorite in the field. Just shy in second place with 22% was Third Day.
Which was my vote.
Okay. And then rounding out the top 3 was the Newsboys. To be fair, I'm going John James Newsboys. That's the Newsboys I'm thinking about. Not Peter Furler, not with all the Michael Tate stuff going on.
Yep.
John James Newsboys. Skillet slid in with 12. I'm a little disturbed that Five Iron Frenzy didn't get any votes. In fact, Scott Harris, who was on the podcast the other week,
yeah,
he said the OC Supertones. To which I said to him, OC Supertones aren't even the best ska band of the 90s.
That's true.
I mean,
that's true.
Five Iron is better than OC.
Listen, I agree with you 100%. However, ska was like a fringe, like I think you use the word cult following.
Five Iron
Christian
Frenzy
cult.
was a cult following band.
Yeah. And I would say the same about Goaty Hook, MXPX,
Okay.
Skank and Boovas.
Skank and Boovas.
Yeah.
You're the only person I know who listens to Skank and Boovas.
Skank and Boovas back in the day, that was definitely in the 90s. That was good.
If you listen to Skank and Boovas, please reach out to the podcast. I need to talk to you. But no. But I just figured like somebody, one of our followers was going to say Five Iron just because like the people who love Five Iron.
Evidently, we're not reaching the right people.
Well, I had two people in mind who neither one of them voted for something else and the other one didn't vote at all. So I'm going to have to make a phone call.
Yeah.
But all that to say, I mean, I think DC Talk, here's what I think. I think DC Talk changed the whole genre, right?
Agreed. They definitely did.
Yeah. I mean, somebody was talking about Jars of Clay, was the first non-CCM label, didn't have that stereotypical sound. But DC Talk, man, they like shaped an entire generation of music.
They did.
They made Christian music cool, in my opinion. And then you look at the careers that came after them. I mean, of course, Toby Mac is, I would say, the most influential Christian artist of all time.
Wow,
I think so. What do you? I mean, Bill Gaither? Are you gonna put Bill Gaither with Toby?
No,
okay,
no.
so who you gonna call?
No, but I was just thinking about Audio Adrenaline. We completely forgot about Audio Adrenaline.
Oh, I didn't forget about them. I didn't put them on the list because I don't think they're in the top 5.
Oh, bro, calm down.
Just let you know.
We're not supposed to be like fighting about this. I feel interrogated here.
I'm just letting you know. Like, I didn't forget about them.
Okay.
I purposely left them off the list.
Let's move on.
Okay, so we got Big House.
Yeah.
Name another Audio Adrenaline song.
Yeah, Big House.
Okay, name another one.
Yeah, Big House.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any others?
Bro, he got nodules on his vocal cords. Otherwise, they would have kept on rocking, man.
Okay, but they didn't.
But they didn't. You're right.
Okay, thank you. So all that to say, DC Talk takes the cake this week. I think any of those would have won. I mean, it probably would have been a toss-up. I mean, if I'm doing second place, it would have been Third Day. By the way, in case you didn't know, Third Day is doing a 30th anniversary tour. They just announced that.
It is already on my calendar.
Everyone should go. In fact,
yep.
We should just, all the podcast listeners, Lynchburg, I think they're in Lynchburg here.
Is it Lynchburg?
Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe.
Somewhere close.
Lynchburg, Leesburg. It's a burg.
It's a burg, and it starts with an L.
Maybe it's Fairfax. That's not a burg.
No, it's not. Anyway, but we're going to go.
It's near us.
We're going to be there. In fact, tickets go on sale tomorrow. And
tomorrow?
Tomorrow. It's on my calendar.
Are you buying my ticket?
I will.
Oh, you're the man.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Sweet. All right, so everybody should check that out. Thank you for participating in the poll. We'll have another one coming up this Friday. See what people want to argue. Maybe we'll do like the greatest one-hit wonders, and then you can have Audio Adrenaline.
Hey, whoa. Let's get people to tell us what they want the next poll to be.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
How about that?
Yeah. Reach out, tell us what you want the poll to be.
Yeah.
I know. Christian one-hit wonders, though. That could be
good.
Okay. Yeah, because I can think of a few.
Yeah.
I can think of a few.
Go ahead and name one since you're thinking of them.
Big House by Audio Adrenaline.
Bro, really? You gonna throw that at me?
All right.
Okay.
How about Let Us Pray by Rebecca St. James? Like, did she have any really?
Okay. All right.
Sister of For King and Country, by the way, in case you didn't know.
I did not know that.
Yes, she is. For King and Country is her brothers. So she would be another one-hit wonder. Yeah, I could probably think of a few more if I tried hard enough.
Okay, well, don't try anymore.
Okay. Does it hurt your feelings?
No, I'm starting to see smoke coming out of your brain.
Ouch. Okay.
Yeah.
So, into the meat of the podcast. Jeremy?
Some people might think that was the meat.
That's it.
They're like, well, okay, I'm done.
Out. All right. So, we actually had a listener provide a topic for us this week.
Yep. Unintentionally.
But he, we said this would be a great topic for a podcast. You were there. Why don't you tell us the story?
Oh, yeah. So, Sunday morning, I like to stand out front of church, shake everybody's hand, ask how you're doing, say hi. Gentleman walks in, and I don't even remember what we were talking about before he said the phrase. We were shaking hands and laughing and smiling, and then he said, "Oh, well, you live your truth," or something like that. Something about your truth. And I was like, dude, really? I was like, oh my goodness. I was like, this, I cannot believe. And he was like, oh, I'm sorry. I was like, no. You just got me.
You done it now.
You done got me thinking, right? And then I told him, or I came up to you and I was like, listen to what he said. Listen to what he told me. Tell him, tell John. And then he told you, and you were like, hey,
that's a good podcast.
This could be a good podcast.
So today we're talking about the problems with living your truth.
Your truth. Not the truth.
Yes.
Your truth.
What's the difference, Jeremy?
Okay. Your truth can be not based in anything factual. It's based in feelings and opinions, which is not necessarily truth.
That is true.
There is the truth and there is not the truth.
Correct. And so it's very subjective, right?
Yes, your truth is extremely subjective. Yes.
And there are times where I wouldn't say that it's always a bad thing, right?
Okay, I'm curious to hear.
Okay, like for example, you and I, this is not true tonight because it's blasted hot in here, but if you said it's cold and I said it's hot, and we're living our truths means that you will put on a sweatshirt and I will have a fan on, and that's okay.
That's debatable. I mean, that's not.
But I'm just saying.
Okay.
Because the fact would be it's 72 degrees in here.
Yeah.
Right? So moments like that, okay. Yeah. Some of that I can get into.
Yeah. Okay? I mean, that's more of
opinion,
preference.
But the problem is that now that has developed into truth that people are allowed to live by.
Yeah.
It's a cultural phenomenon.
Yeah.
That people just think that their truth.
Saying that it's a cultural phenomenon, is it just in developed countries?
I don't know.
That would be interesting to know.
Yeah. Yeah. And the bottom line, I mean, there's no such thing, especially when it comes to theology, when it comes to Christ-likeness, when it comes to Scripture. There's no such thing as subjective truth, right? The verse that first pops out in my head is John 14:6. You know, Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life, right? So Jesus kind of obliterates this idea of living our truth as far as, you know, following after God, establishing himself as the only truth that's out there. So all things outside of Jesus, in terms of trying to get to God, are in fact not true, no matter what your opinion of those things are. So when we search after truth, we're searching after Jesus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you're searching for anything other, if you're searching for your truth, you're rejecting any authority, basically.
Absolutely.
Especially God's.
Absolutely.
Yep.
There was a old Lecrae song there that I forget what the name of the song was, but he talks about in there like, well, what if my truth says your truth is a lie? Is your truth still true?
Oh.
Right? Like,
was he spitting a little faster than that?
He was a little faster than I did, but yeah. So the challenge is, so what are the dangers? What are the dangers of this you live your truth? Well, first, there is no clear right or wrong for anything.
And that is a problem.
That's a big problem.
A huge problem.
And when you see it, I mean, that ultimately that's what's causing a lot of the moral decay of our country right now.
Yeah.
And our society.
How long of a period of time has it taken to get to where we are, would you say? We talking like the last 20 years? It's grown exponentially, or are we talking like the past 75 years? Like what is your thought there?
Like, I think it probably started.
This is an opinion.
Yeah,
this is an opinion.
Yeah. So I did a little bit of research on this for a project I did in seminary.
Okay.
And I actually think like late 70s, early 80s was this like development of like Jesus as my best friend, like really personalizing, and not saying we shouldn't personalize our relationship with Jesus. Don't get me wrong. But it was like this me and Jesus mentality to where like all that mattered was me and Jesus. And I think that started the root of it.
Okay.
Where it was like, as long as I have a personal relationship with Jesus, nobody gets to tell me anything differently because I have a personal relationship with him and it's personal, which means you need to butt out of it. So I think that's
okay.
where a little bit of those seeds started to, I'm not saying it's where it's, where it blossomed, but I think that was kind of the seed of that ideology, because now if you look, like a lot of the folks that are struggling with those things are either parents or the top of the generation that's really wrestling with this the most.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's how that's where I saw it getting started, as I did some research and things like that. When we really started talking about, like, you don't let anybody get in the way of your personal relationship with Jesus, which is true in a sense, but that also doesn't mean that we get to personalize Jesus. Like he says certain things to me and not to anybody else. And so nobody gets to call me out on that. I don't know. Thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, I was really going to say the last 20 to 30 years, I think it has really gotten out of control.
Absolutely.
Where it started and how it started, hard to say, but I would say it's grown exponentially, and that you hear people say, "Oh, you do you," or "Yeah, that's you do your thing," like that's your truth, like but even people who don't agree with it are accepting it and being okay with it. Well, that's your truth. You do that, and I'm going to do this.
Right.
And we're forgetting about what the truth in God's word is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and one of the other things that we talk, that we have here on our thoughts is, like, it becomes this self-centered faith where it becomes about you.
Yes.
And like, again, that comes back to that, like, me and Jesus thing. Like, it's all about me and how I feel. And I mean, that's a problem, right? Because
I mean, we've turned, well, I say Christianity has been turned into everything else in the world. Like, Christianity is the same as anything else.
Right. It's very it can be very consumer driven.
Yes. That's the word. That's the good word.
And that is, I think, a byproduct of that. Like, I'm living my truth.
Yep.
And I know that the Bible says that X is wrong, but it feels right to me, and Jesus loves me. So therefore, Jesus would not deny me this truth or this thing that makes me feel good.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, I think us living our truth is all about what feels good for us in that moment, what you went back to.
Hey, that makes me think about a quote from Dennis Prager. He says, people want to talk about what makes them feel good, not what actually does good.
Right.
And that has stuck with me because it's so true. Everybody like you said, it's me. Everybody wants to do the things that make them feel good, but it doesn't mean they're doing good.
Right.
And that's a problem.
Well, and at least, like, I can at least appreciate, like, folks that want to have a dialogue about it instead of, so, like, I think about, obviously, those people who know me know that, like, my position on same gender marriage, right? I am not supportive of a biblical worldview that says that homosexual marriage is okay. Like, I think it's sinful, and I think just like every other sexual sin, it needs to be repented of, and Jesus needs to do a reconstruction. I had a friend who doesn't feel that way. They're open and affirming, as they call it. That is for them. And, like, one day they just, like, we were on a little trip together, and they're like, can we just go for a walk, and can you explain to me why you feel this way? Because I don't know that I know anybody who does. And so we just, like, walked around.
They said that to you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so, which is kind of crazy that they had surrounded themselves with so many people.
Yeah, no doubt. That's why I asked.
Right. It doesn't surprise me because that person's kind of insular. But we just walked, and, like, they allowed me to explain why I felt the way I did. And we talked about, like, biblical worldview. We talked about biology. We talked about all the things that go into that conversation. At the end of the day, they didn't change their mind. I didn't change mine. But at least there was a conversation where somebody was open to it, because now I think we've gotten so ingrained in this, like, my truth thing. Like, you're not even allowed to challenge somebody. You're like, you're had right. better step away if you even challenge that somebody's truth isn't right, at least for them.
Unless it matches their truth.
Oh, absolutely.
But that's a whole nother conversation.
Absolutely.
Whole nother conversation.
Yeah. The scriptures are quite clear. Living your truth, right? I love Jeremiah 17:9. It's one of the things that I think about very often in my life, the scriptures say that the heart is deceitful above all things, right? So we can't just follow what we're feeling because our heart is so easily, enticed by other things.
Absolutely.
Right? Like my heart will often tell me things that I need to 100% keep in check, or I will end up in a world of trouble and real fast.
The people know what those things are, and they use them to draw you in and make you think that it's okay.
Yeah. Welcome to the
because
world.
Because they make it look good.
Right. Welcome to the world of Facebook algorithms.
Oh my goodness. Right. The old book face. That's a whole. We could do a whole podcast on.
We could do
the
like
book
a
face.
whole month of
we could
podcast on that.
You were talking about Jeremiah 17, 2 Timothy 4. People will gather teachers to say what their itching ears want to hear.
Yeah.
So just like you said about the person you had the conversation with, they had surrounded themselves with like-minded people. And I mean, like I said, it kind of blew my mind when you said, they don't know anybody that feels the way that you like. To me, that blows my mind. So,
yeah. But I mean, like, this person went to a progressive church. They went to school at a very progressive school. Like, you can insulate yourself.
Yeah, you definitely can. You're right.
From any of those things. I mean, it's not just, it could be about any one thing. Like, and again, like, boy, you were talking about technology. Like, there's a reason why, like, you search something and it gets built in, and all of a sudden you start searching stuff in your search bar and it will pull up things that it knows you want to see.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, like, if you were to, most of my commentary stuff is digitized now, so you can't walk in and look on my bookshelf anymore. But there's definitely like a theological arena that I operate in. Right. And so it can be easy for even, us as Christians who are trying to live, faithful to the truth. Like, we can even insulate ourselves and forget that there's,
That's true.
This going, and sometimes we need to be checked because sometimes we're not always right. There are times where, where
that's one of the biggest things is being able to listen and hear what someone has to say when they are talking to you about something that you may or may not agree with.
Right.
Just listen.
Right. And listen to, like, not just to argue back.
Yeah. Listen to understand.
Yeah.
Listen. Yeah. I mean, we could all go out and find somebody we don't agree with and be prepared for an argument. And literally, I mean, you're just wasting your time and their time because you're just arguing and that's what you're going to do.
Absolutely.
I mean, that happens all the time.
And the other side of that is, like, one of the things I struggle with is when I'm really trying to dialogue with somebody and the only thing that they can do is, like, throw things in my face to argue their point and not actually have a conversation. Like, boy, that will, don't just throw research papers at me and, like, that stuff. Like, let's actually have a conversation.
Yeah.
And talk about these things. Right. Because, and I do think that's ultimately, we are to be shaped by the scriptures. We're to be shaped by Jesus. And as Christians, our primary authority for truth should come from Jesus. That is not saying that those other things don't have their place, that commentaries or books or articles or critical research papers. Yes, if I go to the doctor and the doctor is telling me about a condition, like, I'm going to take the doctor's opinion and I'm going to take what the doctor is saying but I'm going to filter that through the lens of Jesus. And I do think that's the challenge when we are trying to subject truth. It's almost like people can elevate the opinions that agree with them or the papers that agree with them or the research that agrees with them and elevate that above the truth of Christ.
Yeah.
And ultimately, like, that's the primary thing that's supposed to shape us as God's people is God's word.
I mean, look at it like this. When we get to the gates of heaven, what truth are we answering to?
Right. Are
we answering to our truth? Or are we answering to God's truth?
Right. Right.
We're answering to God's truth.
Right. And ultimately, I'm living this with a person in my own life right now. Like, when you start living your truth and not caring it will end up separating you from so many people in your life because it gets uncomfortable. And I think that's one of the reasons why, we just talked about this. I said this in the sermon yesterday at church was, God loved us so much that he gave us a clear standard, a clear message, clear guidelines in the scriptures to live our lives. He didn't want us to have to figure all this stuff out on our own. Like, he doesn't want us to have to go searching for truth. We don't have to search for truth. We know what truth is. It's Jesus. And so when we follow after him, then everything else comes from there. And so the amount of people who waste their lives looking for something other than truth itself and then just chasing after the wind, it's kind of sad when you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about how many people are searching for their truth, and they're just lost and hurting, and they don't understand why they're not happy. They're like, I have my truth, but something's missing.
Right.
Like, they're not going to say that, but how many people are living that way that they're just lost?
How many people have we seen they've had everything in life and they end up taking their own life, or they end up overdosing on drugs, or they end up living a life that is just in shambles because the things they thought, the truths that they were living that they thought were going to make them happy.
Yeah. False truth.
Right. Jesus himself, right?
Yeah.
You will know the truth, and the truth it'll set you free. It will actually take away the burdens of trying to figure out all the things on your own. Here's the other side. Living God's truth almost guarantees that you are going to have to deny yourself on a pretty much daily basis.
Yes. I mean, that's biblical. Deny yourselves.
Right.
I mean,
about a lot of stuff.
Yes.
And I don't think it's hard because there are so many people, I think, that think that the ultimate goal of Christianity is for you to be happy.
Yeah, that's not it. That's not it.
It's for you to be holy.
Yeah.
And when you are holy and you are you're living in God's will, then you will become happy.
Yeah. And the blessings that you get in your life might not be the blessings that the world says are good. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you might get a blessing that blesses you or blesses somebody else, but the world might look at it and be like, that doesn't mean anything.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So people are gauging their Christianity on a worldview of what's good, and that's not how it works.
Right. Well, and again, I mean, there are just so many things in our lives that in the moment we think they're going to make us happy, and they end up costing grave consequences. Right. I mean, just the amount of things that in our life that go sideways because in the moment, that seemed like the absolute best thing in the world, and it fell apart real quick, fast, in a hurry,
Yeah.
And so ultimately that is what I think that's why Jesus wants to be the truth, is so that we all have the same standards to live by, the same commands to live by, right? It's, sort of like cell phone time, right? Cell phone time is the same for all people on the mobile network, right? It doesn't matter if because your car radio could have a different time because you set that yourself, and your clock at home, and don't even get me started on the old VCR clocks, your kitchen clock, all those you set yourself. So everybody's clock could be different, all within.
And then when the power blinks, it's midnight again.
It's all midnight. But cell phone time is the same for everyone who's connected to the satellite network, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So that sort of Jesus is. It doesn't really matter what you set your clock to. I could set my clock on the wall. In fact, just behind us is a dead clock. I haven't put a new battery in. It currently, according to that clock, is 45. And just because that clock says 5:45. It ain't no 5:45, friend.
Yeah, because my cell phone says that it's 10:21.
So there you go. So it doesn't really matter what that clock says. I can feel like that clock is right all day long. Right? I don't make it right.
Nope.
because ultimately I'm going to be late, really late or really early for something if I go by that one. How can we help people find truth?
I mean, talk about God's truth, the truth. And I don't mean like beat somebody over the head with it. I mean, have a conversation. Explain to them why you feel the way you do about God's truth.
Yeah.
And why you think their truth, or people saying my truth, can be hurtful to them and to others.
Oh, absolutely. And that it's okay to have your truth if your truth lines up with the Bible, right? And there are going to be, like, there's a difference between, there's things we can have opinions on, which kind of goes back to that like hot and cold conversation.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
You can have a different opinion about something if it doesn't impact eternity. Mm-hmm. But man, when it comes to the stuff that impacts eternity, like, you've got to find that truth. And ultimately, I mean, look at what searching after the truth. And I think that's one of the reasons why the world struggles with it, is because we struggle with it so much in the church, right? I mean, church is split over.
Church is split over everything.
Right. And a lot of times it comes down to their version of the truth.
Yeah.
This is what I think. And so the church, splits because this person thinks, or this group of people thinks that they have the monopoly on truth. When ultimately, you read the scriptures, that stuff's pretty clear. There's certain things we shouldn't, now the Bible's not going to give us whether we should have green carpet or blue carpet. But,
you sure that's not in there?
I know it says no red carpet.
Oh,
yeah, that's in there. But I can't tell you where. I'm pretty sure it's in there. I think that's in there. I'm pretty sure. It's not going to tell us who the greatest '90s band, the Christian band, is. Wait
a minute. So you're saying everything we did on that was an opinion?
Yeah, pretty much.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, except for the whole audio adrenaline thing. That was a fact. Everything else was an opinion.
Okay, buddy. Okay.
It's a big, big house.
With lots and lots of rooms.
A big, big table.
With lots and lots of food.
With only one hit. And that's a wrap for this week's Life on 11 podcast. As always, we hope that you will subscribe to this podcast wherever you get your feeds from. You can follow us on our social media channels by searching at Life on 11 podcast. And one of the best ways you can support what we do is to share this episode with your friends. We hope you will join us next time on the Life on 11 podcast, where faith is loud and God's truth is louder. If this episode stirred your spirit, share it with someone who needs a little hope today. Stay bold, stay rooted, and remember, we're called to not do the kingdom halfway. Keep living loud for Jesus. We'll see you next time.